Fedor continues his march towards the heavyweight gold, Cung stars in the summer's most anticipated sequel, and move over Katy Perry as Cris, Cyborg, and Finney are this weekend's California girls. Welcome to the Fight Network's preview of Strikeforce, Fedor vs. Werdum. Hey everybody, welcome to the Fight Network's preview of Strikeforce's Fedor vs. Werdum card that takes place this Saturday night from the HP Pavilion in San Jose, California. I'm John Pollock, and joining me shortly will be John Ramdeen as we break down a card that promises fireworks a week early, including the return of Cung, Cris Cyborg defends her 145-pound women's gold, and Saturday night's main event is a heavyweight bout featuring arguably the top fighter in the world. Fedor Emelianenko returns to action this Saturday night with his near-perfect record of 31-1 and possessing one of the largest auras in mixed martial arts as he tangles with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wizard, the 13-4-1 Fabricio Werdum, who is 2-0 in the Strikeforce organization, with his most recent victory coming this past November over Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Fedor attempts to secure a Strikeforce heavyweight title opportunity with a victory this weekend as he makes his second trip into the Strikeforce cage.
Bem, eu acredito que o Fedor hoje é o melhor do mundo, pounds for pounds, e o Werdum é um cara amigo meu, né? Vou torcer pro Werdum, mas eu acredito que para ele buscar a vitória tem que talvez buscar o grande pound, né? O Werdum ficar por cima da luta, né? O Werdum é um cara que tem um chão muito bom, muito afiado e tem chance de vencer.
I have been helping a lot of Werdum for this fight. Fedor, he's of course he's a favorite in the fight, and I know. I have been fought Fedor. I know what he can do, and I have been in the ring against the man, and I know, and I know what he's capable to do, and I know what Werdum is capable to do. I think Werdum is capable to finish, to submit him.
I don't know, man. Fedor seems to be unstoppable. I don't know what Werdum can really bring to the table. A lot of people try to, and Fedor stopped him. I think Fedor might end up again with another knockout.
I hope Werdum represents Jiu-Jitsu and be in a good shape and give a good show for everybody. But for me, the favorite is Fedor. But my heart is going for Werdum.
And again, same thing. Nobody's unbeatable. Everybody thinks Fedor is unbeatable. Nobody unbeatable. For a while, maybe, but eventually, and you just have to believe in that and just go for it. Because everybody can beat anybody. That's what the sport's. That's what it's fun about.
Well, speaking about his ground technique, I think that his technique is approximately the same as Naguera, but higher than Babalu.
По технике лежа я бы сказал, что он.
Oh my goodness, boys. This is what we were talking about. He looks like the executioner walking down to the ring. This guy is the real deal in Russian nightmares.
Fedor Emelianenko's reign has spanned over a decade, and throughout that time he's remained an overwhelming force in mixed martial arts. His tranquil demeanor prior to battle very much resembles the calm before the storm. But once the bell sounds, the merciless onslaught is unleashed, and a path of destruction is all that's left behind.
Red Rogers, like so many in the past, wondering what happened.
After ruling the heavyweight kingdom with an iron fist, the last emperor has still been subject to criticism.
I would like to see Fedor fight in the UFC. You see, to me, I can fight all around the world, and I can beat all the best guys around the world. I can be considered a world champion, the best fighter in the world. But I want to do that in the UFC, because the UFC is the top level. And I want to beat the guys in the UFC, and I'll consider myself as a world champion.
Many feel he has not challenged today's top stars. However, in 2 of his last 3 outings, Emelianenko managed to defeat 2 former UFC heavyweight champions in absolute fashion.
Look at that huge up there by Fedor.
Comes over the top.
We see it here. Arlovsky has him in the corner, backed him up with that kick, and I think that made him a little too aggressive. Thought he had it when it fell. Big right hand right on the chin.
Although he has been matched up against the giants in the division, Size did not seem to faze Emelianenko because his versatile skill set allows him to manipulate his opponent and capitalize on any error.
Fedor is a tough guy. He's one of the best in the world, and he never misses one mistake. Once you do one mistake with him, it's over.
And now again going for the armbar underneath, and this time Hongman Choi taps out.
He has battled several opponents with diverse martial arts backgrounds, and all of them have failed to solve the biggest riddle in MMA, how to beat Emelianenko.
I think everybody don't give him a lot of credit because man, Fedor is a beast, and he fought everybody, and he don't care.
But another contender has stepped up to take the challenge.
It is my turn now. I want the Fedor fight.
Please welcome the two-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Champion, introducing Fabricio Werdum.
Two-time Abu Dhabi Combat Club World Heavyweight Champion Fabricio Werdum will look to do the impossible as he aims to become the first man to decisively defeat Fedor Emelianenko. It is a bout that's been on the Brazilian's mind since his victory over Antonio Bigfoot Silva.
I don't fight this my last fight in November. Yeah, I only wait, but I want Fedor because I train only for Fedor.
Werdum arms himself with a ground game that's superior to most heavyweights.
He's got to drive his right shoulder into the mat, and that he's pulling backwards means the choke is working. And he taps out, just like that. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at its finest.
His sharp jiu-jitsu has already earned him a victory over one Emelianenko.
Lutei também contra o Alexander Fedor, que é o irmão do Fedor. Foi muito boa a luta, estava muito bem preparado. Me preparei muito, então por isso que a luta foi fácil. Foi fácil não, a luta foi rápida na verdade, né? Foi rápido porque eu estava muito bem preparado. Ele não me acertou nenhum soco ele me acertou. Eu botei ele para baixo, fiz o jogo que tinha que fazer, botei ele para baixo e depois finalizei ele.
The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt also holds a black belt in Judo. He will rely on these skills to sway the fight in his favor.
Eu acho que o Fedor não faz nada mal. O Fedor é o melhor do mundo, todo mundo já viu, ele é bom em cima, ele é bom embaixo, faz jiu-jitsu bem, jogando embaixo e em cima. Então ele é o melhor do mundo, mostrou pro mundo inteiro, tá não sei quanto tempo invicto, né? Tá mais de não sei quantos, 5, 6 anos invicto, sem perder. Então, na minha opinião, eu acho que eu tenho que ficar por cima dele. Eu acho que eu tenho que botar ele para baixo, poder fazer uma boa projeção, botar ele para baixo, ficar por cima dele e quanto antes pegar ele, finalizar ele.
While Werdum has demonstrated reasonable striking in the past,
I think it's got a little bit to do with that. Made his corner.
Oh, right hand drives Braga.
Oh my
God. Braga is out.
a stand-up exchange with Emelianenko could prove to be fatal. Werdum well entered the cage in hopes of submitting the living legend, but it's a game plan that the Sambo specialist has been exposed to in the past. It is a fight that is tailor-made for the Russian, and while he's set to defend his WEMA heavyweight championship for the third time, he'll also aim to avenge his brother's loss and become the #1 contender for the Strikeforce heavyweight title.
He's John Ramdian, and we're breaking down the Strikeforce card this Saturday night. Let's start with the main event. Fedor Emelianenko returns to a Strikeforce cage, taking on Fabricio Werdum, and a pattern that we've seen in Fedor's last two fights is a slow start and then a spectacular knockout. Do you see that as a potential hole that Werdum is going to have in the back of his head?
Yeah, the thing about Fedor Emelianenko is he's one of the smartest fighters in the world. I had a chance to talk to him. He always prepares for a 3 or 5 round fight, but he wants to take out his opponents in the least amount of time possible. He tries to take him out in the first minute of the fight. For Fabricio Werdum, he has to be patient. He has to use his size. He has to try to get this fight down to the ground to use his world-class jiu-jitsu skills. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Fedor is too crafty on the ground. He's too crafty standing, and he has explosive power, and that might be Werdum's Achilles heel.
How does Werdum get Fedor to the ground if you're in his corner?
I think what Werdum has to do is he has to fight big. He has to use his size. He has to be very patient. He's got to try to get in close by setting up the jab. I don't think the smart thing to do is to pull guard, which we might see. I think he's got to close the distance, get in close with Fedor, tie him up, and get him onto the ground, put him on his back, and try to use the top game.
Also, an interesting added element to this is that Werdum actually holds a victory over Fedor's younger brother, Alexander.
Yeah, I think Fedor wants to go in and get some redemption so that he clears the Emelianenko family name. So a little bit extra motivation for Fedor Emelianenko to take out Werdum in this fight.
We know Alistair Overeem is going to be watching this fight closely. Who is John Ramdian picking to be that potential challenger for Overeem?
BJ Penn calls him the greatest fighter in the world, so I'm going to have to say Fedor Emelianenko takes out Fabricio Werdum in the second round by TKO stoppage.
9-1 Christiane Cyborg Santos makes the second defense of her 145-pound women's featherweight championship against the 8-7 Jan Finney, who is a natural 135-pound fighter facing the biggest in every sense of the word challenge of her career. The Ohio native Finney has had her arm raised in her previous 4 bouts and is a veteran of Jeff Osborne's Hook and Shoot promotion.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the cage women's MMA powerhouse from Curitiba, Brazil. Here is Cris Cyborg.
Cris Cyborg is like an animal in the ring.
Cyborg is scary, too.
Those people that say the women can't fight, step in the ring with her and you'll have a different opinion.
Cyborg is tough, whooping some ass and really fighting out there.
Christiane Cyborg Santos has all but erased the memory of former poster girl and MMA superstar Gina Carano. The Shoot-A-Box product captured the hearts of fight fans everywhere when she dispatched Carano in relentless fashion in August of 2009 when the two women headlined the Strikeforce event in Miami.
Seconds, she's not answering. Carano getting pounded. She better watch out.
Since losing her mixed martial arts debut in May of 2005, Cyborg has looked impressive, stopping virtually every one of her opponents by strikes.
Fight back, Shayna, fight back! Now takes a leg kick. 20 closing her eyes and just throwing punches. Ooh, whoa, what a snap! That one hurt her.
The 24-year-old is a physical specimen, able to overwhelm her adversaries with brute force, sheer power, and an unrelenting Muay Thai attack.
Right hand, Carano in trouble. Cyborg.
However, Santos has not neglected the other aspects of the sport. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt garnered a bronze medal at the 2009 Abu Dhabi Combat Club World Championships in Barcelona, Spain, showcasing a dangerous overall skill set. Women have been competing for almost as long as their male counterparts. It's only now that the top-tier talent has taken center stage. But the lack of depth in each division has caused complete female fighters, such as Cris Cyborg, to become overnight sensations. Standing in the Brazilian's path of destruction is the undersized and overmatched Jan Finney.
My nickname is Cuddles. I'm not exactly cuddly.
Although undefeated in her past 4 outings, Cuddles has struggled when facing any top contenders. With some betting lines rating Cyborg as a minus 2,500 favorite, calling Finney an underdog is an understatement. If she manages to topple the Amazonian wrecking machine, she could be the next female fighter to enjoy overnight success.
John, in this women's bout, Christiane Cyborg Santos defends her 145-pound championship against Jan Finney. First of all, how is this fight sanctioned?
It is simply a showcase fight for Christiane Santos. They're trying to create a Gina Carano, which they pretty much already have, or a Fedor Emelianenko. They want to create a mystique around Cyborg. The women's division still in development, so not a lot of top-tier girls when it comes down to the rankings, but they got to take what they can get, and you got to give props to Jan Finney for stepping up and taking this fight against one of the most destructive forces in the women's division.
The odds on this line are astronomical in the favor of Cyborg. For people that are going to put money on the underdog in Jan Finney, what are you telling these people is a snowball's chance in hell that Jan Finney could have?
Yeah, on some lines they have Cyborg as the minus 2,500 favorite, so not a great bet if you're going to take Jan Finney in this fight. In order for Jan Finney to win this fight, she cannot stand and trade with Cyborg. She has to close the distance, try to put Cyborg on her back, and try to go for either a submission or just control her over the course of 5 rounds. But it's going to be a very long night or a very short night for Jan Finney.
Does this also speak to the depth issue they have in the women's division right now in not creating enough challengers post Gina Carano for Cyborg?
See, that's the problem with creating a women's title. When there's not enough challengers there, you run the risk of something like this happening. I think you have to take your time with the divisions. You have to establish your divisions before you hand out a title, and I think that's where Strikeforce is right now. Cyborg Santos just so far above the pack that it's hard to send fighters in to face her when you know that she's going to win.
I don't think you'll be one of those putting money on Jan Finney. How is Cyborg going to win this fight?
Cyborg is going to win this fight by destructive fashion, probably in the first round or second round. Her striking abilities and her power is just too much, and I don't think Jan Finney's going to be able to handle it. But you know what? It's the best thing about mixed martial arts is anything can happen.
But I doubt this one will. In a highly anticipated rematch from this past December, 6-1 Cung hopes to avenge the one blemish on his mixed martial arts record when he steps back into the cage against the 17-6 Scott Smith, who has provided mixed martial arts fans with some of the greatest comebacks in MMA history. Scott Smith and Cung are set to lock horns in an explosive rematch from their December 2009 tilt, in which Smith knocked Lee out in a thrilling come-from-behind victory.
Scott's got him, delivering another right hand! He's just gonna finish him!
story of the California native has been one of survival through spectacular out-of-nowhere stoppage victories. In a bout that many pundits consider one of the greatest comebacks in the sport's history, Smith knocked out Matt Serra-trained Pete Drago Sell after suffering a debilitating shot to the body. Smith faced former UFC and IFL middleweight Benji Radek, and through 3 rounds, many feel that it was Radek, fresh off of a stoppage victory over Murillo Ninja Hua, who controlled the action before eating a thunderous right hand that left him defenseless. In Smith's Elite XC debut, he challenged tough alumni Kyle Noak, who dictated the tempo to take control of the first round. But only 7 seconds into the second frame, Smith stole the show with a highlight reel ending.
Oh, Smith just tagged Kyle Noak with the right hand. Down goes Noak. It's a knockout win for Scott Smith. Hands of steel personified.
Every one of Smith's 17 victories has come by way of a finish, making his fights very palatable to casual fans. Lee has an opportunity at redemption and a chance to reinsert himself into the middleweight title hunt. But does the 38-year-old have the experience, drive, or power to contend with the comeback kid this time around? The Vietnamese Sanshao artist is a relative newcomer to the sport of mixed martial arts, having only made his professional debut in 2006. After dominant performances against less than stellar opposition, Lee battled former UFC middleweight champion and King of Pancrase Frank Shamrock for the Strikeforce 185-pound belt. After dispatching Shamrock and capturing the title, Lee vacated the championship to focus on his acting career. If Lee wants to make an impact in the division, he has to punish a man younger and far more experienced. John, this was a Fight of the Year candidate for 2009. We're getting the rematch between Scott Smith and Cung Lee. Going back to that fight in December, what did you see in Cung Lee after the near 2-year layoff he had going into that one?
Well, Cung Lee has always been fairly conservative when he's facing top guys. He uses his skills perfectly, which are the kicks and his hands, but specifically the kicks. He uses a lot of movement, and I think that's going to be the key in this fight with Scott Smith. I think Cung Lee's a smart fighter, so he's going to go back and he's going to review the tape and try to not get caught with a big shot to put him down. I think, again, you're going to see tons of movement from Cung Lee, and I think you're going to see an improved Cung Lee in this fight.
Do you sense that Cung Lee will be actively working for the finish, or is it something where he's going to be more concerned with his conditioning, which I think was an issue going into the 3rd round, and just working for the decision against Smith?
I think the most important thing for a lot of these fighters, especially a guy that's in his late 30s like Cung Lee, is to get the win. That's the most important thing. Make yourself relevant. And I think the conditioning, he's going to revamp that, make sure that he's in tip-top shape. And again, the movement is key for Cung Lee for this fight.
Now for Scott Smith, what changes does he have to make into his game plan? He's someone that takes a lot of punishment, seeking that knockout victory, but that's not a strategy that's going to result in a long career.
Well, for what I've heard in the past, including Frank Shamrock said, that Cung Lee lacks the power. Well, ask Frank Shamrock's arm if that's the case. But for Scott Smith, he's got to not respect Cung Lee's punching power. He's got to move forward and take out Cung Lee, but he can't get caught in the movement for Cung Lee. Cung Lee very good when it comes to takedown defense, but the power and the chin of Cung Lee is a little questionable. So I think Scott Smith has to come out guns blazing, and I think he'll get a knockout victory again.
Former Strikeforce lightweight champion Josh "The Punk" Thompson hopes to elevate his standing in the 155-pound ranks as he brings his 16-3 record into the cage Saturday night against 23-15 battle-tested Pat Healy, who was offered the bout after Lyle Beerbaum and Vitor Shaolin Ribeiro couldn't take the fight. With a win, one would assume Thompson would edge himself closer to a 3rd fight with champion Gilbert Melendez. John, Josh "The Punk" Thompson returns to action this Saturday. He's going to be taking on Pat Healy, who's been a very, very durable fighter over the years, holds some victories over some very, very key people in the industry. Tell us a bit about Pat Healy and what to expect Saturday.
Pat Healy training at a Team Quest, like you said, a very durable and well-traveled guy. He has lots of power. His takedowns are very explosive, but it comes to the clinch. I think that's where he'll win this fight. If he can pin Josh Thompson up against the cage, use his dirty boxing, land a couple of takedowns, not going to be very easy on Josh Thompson, but if he can wear him down, I think he can get the victory. It's going to be difficult to catch Josh Thompson, though. Thompson's movement is stellar, and his hands are spectacular. I think Josh Thompson's going to look at the game plan and the tape in Pat Healy, and I think he'll come up with a game plan to beat Pat Healy. I think he's too crafty, former Strikeforce lightweight champion, and if Gilbert Melendez gave him all and he hung with him, I think he's going to be able to hang with Pat Healy.
And I think this fight will be a very good assessment of Josh Thompson as well, coming off of that Gilbert Melendez fight where a lot of people forget he was going into that fight after the big layoff with his ankle injuries. He's had 6 months to recuperate since that time, and I think in this fight we'll see if he's ready for a 3rd bout with Gilbert Melendez.
Yeah, he says, you know, the 3rd fight with Gilbert Melendez can be on the back burner. let Gilbert do his thing, and he's ready to take on the rest of the lightweights in the Strikeforce organization. But Josh Thompson, definitely a star in the making, and Pat Healy can be a star if he takes out the Punk.
So, John, who are you taking in this lightweight encounter?
I'm going to have to go with the former Strikeforce lightweight champion, Josh Thompson. Pat Healy is tough, he's durable, but I think he hasn't dealt with a fighter like Josh Thompson before. I think over the course of 3 rounds, it will be Josh Thompson winning by unanimous decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a split decision.
It's a very intriguing card on paper. It takes place this Saturday night from the HP Pavilion in San Jose, California. It's Strikeforce, Fedor versus Werdum. We hope you enjoy the card. For everyone here at the Fight Network, he's John Randine. I'm John Pollock. Enjoy the fights this Saturday night.